Got some nice snippets here of information. Let's run through them. So some things you've seen before, but a nice recap of SOX. Make sure we're familiar here. Registered public accounting firms must maintain the records for 7 years. We saw that. Memorize that 7-year amount. The maximum number of years an audit partner can perform audit services for an issuer before the auditor rotation is 5 years. Now that's 7 years if you're not the lead partner, but generally it's 5 years. That's the more important one to know. SOX established the PCAOB, making sure we're familiar with that. Management must attest the effectiveness of internal control over financial reporting. What does that mean? The effectiveness, we'll see this in integrated audits as well. How well internal controls facilitate proper financial reporting and to the accuracy of the financial statements through that management rep letter, which we'll see that in a lesson much more toward the end of the course. Lastly here, SOX and the SEC rules that prohibit an accounting firm from auditing an issuer's financial statements if certain members of management of the issuer have been members of the firm's audit engagement team within 1 year period preceding the beginning of the audit procedures. This is something we saw a little bit in the AICPA rules as well. You can't just be an auditor and then go over to the client. Why is that? Well, you need a 1 year cool-off period because if you are an auditor, you're knowing the ins and outs of how the company's being audited, and then you could take that secret proprietary information and give it to the client. And that's concerning because the client's not supposed to know a lot of these ins and outs of how the auditor does its work. Kind of like, this would be a little extreme example, but if you were working for you were working for the FBI and then you worked for, some illegal organization or something like that, it's like now you know how the FBI is going to try to find you. Obviously, illegal organizations shouldn't exist at all, but it'd be kind of that similarity, right? If the FBI is investigating a certain company and then you go and work for that company and teach them all the secrets that the FBI is going to use to try to nail them, that is concerning. That's why it's not allowed here. These are services that are prohibited, so auditors cannot do these, according to SOX. And this is pretty much in line with the AICPA's rules, which we saw last lesson. You can't audit your own work, so that's what a lot of these are going to end up being. If you are performing any of these services, you're doing work that you would then audit if you were the auditor. You would be doing this work on behalf of the client, and then you can't audit this work because that would be a breach of independence. Lastly, over here, the auditor may not provide confidential or aggressive tax position advice to the client. That's kind of taking too much of a stance with the client, and that's considered a breach of independence. The auditor may not provide tax services to corporate officers of the audit client. However, they can provide tax services pre-approved by the audit committee to the client. Make sure we're familiar with items such as these. The auditor may perform non-audit services that do not exceed 5% of total revenues of an audit client. Again, that's kind of like, all right, you're getting a little too involved with it. That's the kind of the basis of this rule. For that client without audit committee pre-approval, given that the services are brought to the attention of the committee and the services are complete before the audit is complete. Lastly, the auditor may not receive loans from the client. You're not going to engage them in normal business activities if you're auditing them. That's going to breach independence. And we touched a lot upon credit card rules, bank loan balances, checking account balances in our AICPA lesson. Hey there! Are you ready to not only pass your CPA exams, but truly understand and enjoy the material while studying? I know it seems impossible, right? Especially to enjoy the material? We'll do it together. Tap into the power of CPA.examprep.ai, where we've got personalized quizzes, multiple choice questions, memorization guides, flashcards, simulations, all tailored to your learning. Our adaptive study planning puts you on the fastest path to success and lifts you back up if you fall behind. Avoid wasting your precious time and money attempting an exam with a low chance of passing, because who wants that? We want to get you through this process as quick as possible. Our exam readiness prediction lets you walk in with confidence, knowing that you're prepared for success on exam day. Thankfully, there's no payment method needed to get started, so why don't you come join us? Visit cpa.examprep.ai and let's achieve your exam success together.